both microphones for
So Jerry, maybe you could help me. Oh, it worked? All right, never mind. It was the threat of you touching the computer that got it to work properly. My name. No, actually it happened again. I don't understand this. Things to that camera, except occasionally it's just Mr. Kelly's video. I don't know why. So at 6:30, I'm going to start the webinar. You don't have to start the webinar. Oh, it has started. How does that have a video?
speaker.
Oh, there it is. Follow host here.
Well, look at this, Jeremy.
No, because I pinned that
Oh,
video.
Okay.
So the video should be that. Now it's back to that.
Ah.
I don't understand that.
I'm not enough of an expert in Zoom.
Neither am I, but that doesn't make sense.
We'll get started. We are still waiting for quorum, so I think I'll just open with a couple of discussion items. Thank you for coming to Community Board 7 Transportation Committee meeting. I'm the chair, I'm Katie Walsh, and John DeLuper is the vice chair. We have a couple of agenda items for tonight, so just to go through them again, we have a proposal on the dining out. So this is the outdoor sheds for 1241 Prospect Avenue. We have our presenter, they'll be presenting virtually, but they're here. If you are here in person and you wanted to see, I'll leave it there. So we have the dining out proposal, and then we have this application from Greenwood Cemetery. I believe that they are here in person. Yes, I knew that was you guys. Okay. And so then they'll come up and they'll do presentation, and then those are, I believe this is from you guys. So if you're in the meeting in person, you can pick up a paper copy. Otherwise, if you're tuning in virtually, we'll go through it there on the screen with a presentation. Then we have some neighbors who are coming to speak about their activities and advocacy around the intersection at 21st Street and 6th Avenue in the district. I don't think they're here yet. but I'm sure they'll arrive shortly. They're planning on coming in person. They also have a short presentation with a appeal to the community board and to local elected officials. And finally, the BQE South proposal redesign. So again, for any of the folks who are here in person, there are copies of the final BQE proposal design that came out. BQE South is the portion that is in our district in Community Board 7. We don't have anybody here from DOT. We did ask them to come because of the neighbors who are coming for 21st and 6th, and we also asked the other representatives who oversee the DOT BQE work, and both said that they couldn't come. So for these last two agenda items, we will be providing our feedback directly to DOT, who's accountable and responsible for these. So we can't, just to reiterate in terms of quorum, we have to have quorum, achieve it in person so that we can take votes. So we are still several members, Transportation Committee members short, but the winning number is 1. So whoever walks in who's a Transportation Committee member, when they do walk in, we will clap for you. So if you're on your way, we would like to see you soon. I will do just a few other announcements that I was going to do at the end, and maybe I'll just say them again. I want to appreciate all of the work that went into the last October Transportation Committee meeting. We took a lot of votes. We did go through 2 dining out shed proposals, but we also heard about some recommendations to propose on daylighting intersections for the safety of people crossing and visibility. And also, as we heard from one of our board members, it also helps drivers to be able to drive safely. And we passed that unanimously. And then the other vote that we took was on, we had some students, high school students who came and talked about, is this our Transportation Committee member? Oh, so Jamie does get claps. We took a vote also after some students presented on being able to consider and make an appeal to City Bike in terms of lowering prices for students. So both of those all of those proposals, I should say, the dining out, as well as City Bike and Daylight, will be presented to the full board next week. This is me asking for those that are here who are transportation members and those who are tuning in, please be prepared to be able to speak about why you supported that. Sometimes I think things are no-brainers in terms of how the community board and the transportation committee votes, but that doesn't always happen. And I think it's really great to have a few voices who can talk about why they're supporting and had supported these 2 resolutions unanimously. So I will say one other thing and then we'll move to quorum. There is, I don't want to be off mic too much. There is a event this weekend that is very applicable that I wanted to make sure I shared here. And I know several community board members. I know Julio, who's our chairperson, has been involved in this before. But so this Sunday, November 17th, is the World Day of Remembrance. There's going to be a march for safe streets in Sunset Park. For the 4th year, we gather to honor those we've lost to traffic collisions and raise awareness to prevent future tragedies. Every step we take is a step closer to safe streets for all. One of the organizers is a group called Get Women Cycling. The founder originators, in the community and Community Board 7. So it's Sunday, November 17th. They're going to meet at 4 o'clock at 59th Street and 5th Avenue, which is the corner of Sunset Park. So Sunday, November 17th. 59th Street and 5th Avenue at 4 o'clock. And then there'll be a march to support street safety and recognition of the World Day of Remembrance. So that's going out through the Community Board Bulletin, which is a very cool thing to get on that the Community Board is doing now to send out events.
Send us the information.
You should have it, but I will. Yeah. I will make sure you have said flyer. Okay. So we'll work on that, but that should go out through the bulletin. So with all those announcements, and really happy we got two Transportation Committee members in the room, which means we hit quorum. So thank you. So we can take the votes that we need to tonight. With that, we can turn to doing attendance. Thanks, Jeremy.
Good evening. When I call your name, please acknowledge. If you're joining us on Zoom, please remember to unmute yourself, acknowledge your name, and then mute yourself again. Folks, if you're joining us by Zoom, please remain muted. If it's not your time to talk, you could always unmute when it's your turn to talk. So let's start with Katie Walsh. Thank you. John DeLuper.
Present.
Joan Body. Thank you. George Cardona. Jerry Chan. Thank you. Jamie Freed. Thank you. Daniel Kaminsky. Angie Lau. Thank you. Roberto Martinez.
Present.
Thank you. Roberto, you do not count towards quorum. Gabino Morales. Jamie Nelson. Thank you. Maria Rocca. Sam Sierra.
Gabino
Faye.
Morales present.
Thank you. Gabino, you do not count towards quorum. Sam Sierra. Faye Walker. Roll has been called. You do have a quorum.
So much. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so we'll start out with this first signing out proposal 1241 Prospect. And Jeremy, I'll turn to you to let us know who's presenting from that. I believe they're online. That was something Natasha had mentioned.
Michael Kelly, are you the presenter tonight?
Yes.
Great. So take it away.
Okay, this is outdoor sidewalk cafe, not a street cafe, but a sidewalk cafe along Prospect. We are 18 feet 10 inches from the subway entrance, and we are using 11 foot 3 inches of a 24 foot 10-inch sidewalk. The cafe consists of 18 tables and 36 seats. Is there anything else you'd like to know about it?
You got it. Hang on. I got it.
Oh, Joan has a question, who's a community member, so.
Have you removed the area that you built in the street?
Yes. This is just for the sidewalk, not for the street.
Also, have you spoken to any of the residents and the businesses on in that area? If they approve of this going on the sidewalk?
I am just presenting the cafe application. I am not involved with the business, so I do not know who has been speaking with the owners.
Well, then what is your association with the business?
I am doing the application for the sidewalk cafe license. That is my association.
So there's no one available
Hello.
from the business?
There's supposed to be a gentleman named Brandon here.
None of
Brandon,
the
Brandon Lenahan is here. Brandon, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm here. I'm one of the owners. We actually have been operating a sidewalk cafe since we opened in 2014, and we have not had any problems with our neighbors upstairs or any of the businesses on the street. I think we've been a pretty welcome addition to the neighborhood since we've been open.
And also, how far away from the entrance will you be building this?
the entrance of what, ma'am?
The subway, I'm sorry. The subway.
18 feet. The distance from the subway entrance is 18 feet.
Okay, thank you.
And I realize I should give some context that this is only in the last couple of months that these applications for sheds and outdoor dining has been coming to Community Board 7. This is a new process. Of course, you saw during the pandemic the rise of course, an encouragement of outdoor dining in terms of thinking about saving local businesses to operate during COVID. And then there were changes that were introduced. So this again is a new process where these applications are coming to Community Board and they have to follow a very set number of provisions in order to keep going along the application process. So that is why we had two the last meeting and tonight we have one. So any other questions from board members? Jerry? Sorry.
So as I understand it, under the new regulations, you're also required to file an amended liquor license. Is that part of this plan as well?
The liquor license for the outdoor cafe already exists. No, I'm sorry. They have an on-premise liquor license and a sidewalk cafe. Yeah. The liquor license is already set up for the sidewalk cafe. Sorry for being confused. I wasn't
No.
ready for that.
So just to clarify, then that means that there is no amendment necessary. That's your understanding?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, was there any documentation or layout that they provided? Oh, perfect. That's what I was looking for. Let me read this first. I might have to come back real quick.
Questions online either? We didn't provide copies. Jeremy, I know you printed a lot for the meeting, but we didn't print out copies of their application, right? Or did we? Okay, okay. That's Greenwood. That's okay. I was just curious. It's a lot of paper, so. Okay. Do you want to speak into the mic or so that people can hear you?
This part of Prospect Avenue is really at the end of Prospect Avenue where the highway to the, as you're driving west, no, as you're driving north, this is on the right side of Prospect Avenue where the F train stop is Fort Hamilton Parkway. It's not a very, very populated area, but it's a very, very good, quiet area. This restaurant has been there for a number of years. They have been good neighbors to us. We have never had any problems with us. The business to the north of the restaurant is all security, and that business has been there for over 40 years. So this is a very, very, I approve of this application.
So I'll go ahead and suggest that we take a vote by unanimous consent. Do I have a second? A second from Jerry. Okay, so are there any objections to supporting this proposal? You should say it now if you do. Not seeing any. Okay, so we'll pass this proposal. So thank you for coming, Adirondack.
Thank you, everyone. I
We're
appreciate
going to
it.
stay. Okay. Greenwood Cemetery. Well, sorry, I don't know your names, but you're welcome to come up and present. Please introduce yourself when you do. And you have an application. Again, anyone who just came in, there's paper copies that you can pick up if you need them.
Good evening, members.
You have to speak very close so that it works, and you can move it if you need to.
Here we go. Well, good evening, members of the community board and general public. We're presenting this evening the revocable consent application we have filed with the Department of Transportation. This revocable consent application is mainly just to cover telecommunication conduits between the facilities in the cemetery and the new facilities that we're constructing as part of the visitor center. This is only an underground facility. It's going to be maybe 18 inches below grade. And it's basically mainly to convey, like I said, telecommunication conduits. And the reason we're doing this obviously is to facilitate information exchange between the existing facilities and the new facilities. So I don't know if you need any more clarification on that, but that's the general gist of the application.
Are you planning on presenting any of the slides or talk through it or anything specific?
If there's any questions, I can,
What I would encourage is we're all, neighbors, residents, people have different levels of skill sets and knowledge of Greenwood Cemetery, but also of, technical drawings. So if you could just simplify it as easy as possible for understanding what we're looking at, and the kinds of things that our community members are thinking about is safety, accessibility, noise pollution, air quality pollution, how it might impact, like construction might impact someone's experience, mobility. These are all of the things that we're thinking about. So if you could talk through this application and proposal with some of that context.
sure, that's not a problem. If you can see on the screen, you have the general site plan, the cover sheet of our application drawings. And if you see towards the red outline that has the dash T on it, that's the route of the telecommunication conduits. It'll go across Fifth Avenue from the visitor center to across the street toward the cemetery area. And from there, the Greenwood facility would pick it up and run it to their building. And then from the west side, the new facilities will pick it up from their end and transmit it to the facility inside the building. Obviously, this is all going to be work done underground. It'll be, I would imagine it'll be probably trenching involved to get this across the street. So there will be DOT permits, work permits needed to facilitate that work. And we do have approval from the DOT SCARA department. So they already approved the street reconstruction for this work. There is a bus stop just south of where the conduit is, but obviously that's gonna be handled by the relevant DOT department when the contractor actually pulls the work permits.
So what I'm hearing you say is a lot of this work will happen underground, but obviously to do the work, they'll need to dig trenches. And given that there's a bus route, as well as, I'm just trying to look at this to figure out if this impacts the entrance to Greenwood. So, doesn't
No,
impact the
no, it's
entrance to
it's
Greenwood.
just south of the entrance to Green.
South of the entrance, 60 feet south. Do you have we're not committing you to this, but a rough sense of how long construction, those trenches might impact the street? What would the experience be like for a neighbor or a business that's there?
Yeah, and that would all depend on the actual stipulations from the DOT permits, the work permits, once they're issued. Given, like I said, this is maybe a high traffic area, there's a bus stop, DOT may require the contractor to do this work at night or during off-peak hours. So that's way not to impact any of the traffic movements.
And again, just for a little bit more context, this is just, again, to inform us. So if you didn't have this telecom conduit, what's the impact, right? Like what is it achieving? You have to have the telecom conduit to achieve, to do what? So
And-
people can understand it.
Sure, and again, and that's basically to facilitate, transfer of information, whether it be, and I can have the owner kind of explain more to it, but my sense is they're trying to convey telecommunication information, more like data information, administrative information, or even visitor center information to us. That way you don't have a courier running back and forth between the facilities. So that's the main purpose of the conduit.
So I hopefully some of those questions added context for other people, but if there are any committee members that want to ask any questions, you can we'll go to John and then we can go to Jerry.
So as I was understanding this, there's going to be sidewalk and road closures required for part of that. Do you have any more specifics on that you can share?
No, not at this time. And again, I will just, that's basically dependent on the stipulations from the Department of Transportation once the contractor pulls the permit.
Depending on the stipulations, assuming you're closing the sidewalk, you'll make every effort to maintain a safe path?
Oh, of course, that's part of the permit requirements, yeah.
Have any tools for that? I know some of those people use cones, some of those they use Yodocs. Obviously, like speaking to what Katie said about the safety, you know, some of those materials are better than others in terms of protecting the pedestrians. Do you have a standard way you do that or anything like that?
A lot of this stuff is leave it up to the contractor to implement the appropriate, OSHA requirements, city DOT requirements for maintenance and protection of traffic. So there's, if the DOT will allow the drums or the cones or even the traffic barriers, it'll all depend again on the stipulations.
The last question was what parking impacts? Although I see you had another.
Yodocs for like sidewalk safety at this point, so we probably continue. Yeah, we've been using Yodocs to this point for all our safety for sidewalk and street control.
And what about the parking was the last part?
There really isn't much of a parking issue there. We're going to have one trench cut on Fifth Avenue, so you might lose a spot directly on Fifth Avenue, but outside of that, it shouldn't be any more impact than that.
Thank you.
Only during construction time, they would steel plate over, during off hours.
Maybe I missed something, but why is this and what is this? And could you explain what this is all about?
Well, you can take that.
So I'm Eric Barnum, the Vice President of Operations at Greenwood. Basically, our IT infrastructure, telecommunications is about maybe 400 feet away from this new educational welcome center we're building. So
Start from the beginning. What is this project because when demonstrations, when people come here, they explain exactly why they're here, what is being built, why it's being built, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So just to give you some context, so we had approved from the community board a few years ago, we're building a new educational welcome center for the cemetery. That's on 25th Street and Fifth Avenue. So basically, it's going to allow us to have classroom space, museum space directly across from the main entrance of the cemetery itself.
Is this going to be at the Weir?
Yes, the
Forest.
Weir Greenhouse, yes. So that whole project, which had approval. So right up the road, about 500 feet up the road from that building is all our IT infrastructure is already there. So in order to, attempt to maintain that connection, we just wanted to put a couple of conduits under Fifth Avenue connecting the building to the cemetery proper. And to us, it's minimal impact. It'll save the cemetery some money from having to build a new, IT station across the street. So if you have any other questions besides that, does that explain what we're trying to do? Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong or right, but this has nothing to do with the irrigation project that is coming to the cemetery.
But I'm not sure what irrigation project you're referring to, but no. Yeah. No, this is just a simple IT conduit through the street.
Talking IT, talking about language. Do we know what's underground right now? Because the reason I'm asking, like, New York City, we all live in New York City, when they dig, they patch, they dig again, they patch, and dig again. So do you know what's underground right now? In that path? That's my first question.
Hopefully we won't find any of those. Yeah, so obviously, part of the work, obviously, we had to perform a survey of the area as well as obtaining any record documentation from all the city agencies pertaining, obviously, the DEP, who has a lot of infrastructure, Con Ed, Verizon. We reached out to all the affected utility companies. They provided us mapping. Some of them you will see actually on the drawing as far as where our water lines are, where the Senate sewer lines are. You may have to go to either the first or second page. The second page is the actual survey of the property. And then you will see throughout the sheets that there's, sewer, water that we're crossing. The last sheet on the page will give you a cross section that shows some of the underground utilities that will be gonna be straddling over. Some of them, obviously, to your point, it's New York City. Sometimes you open up a trench and it's spaghetti. So obviously, there's some investigation the contractor will need to do while they're doing the work to maintain anything they find that's not on the drawings.
That, I understand. So my question, a second question is, you mentioned that you haven't really gone out and bid for the contract yet? Is that correct? You don't have a contractor yet, right? It is a contractor on board, right? There is a timeline, what's the timeline to finish this project?
Building completion itself will be summer of next year. So the actual work, the street work will, I forget one on the schedule we were looking at. But probably spring of 25.
Timeline, week, 2 weeks, in the summertime. In the summertime, there's a lot of people back and forth.
It would probably be early.
That means there's traffic in that area.
Yeah, again, it should be a simple trench cut depending on what we find, so it shouldn't be.
Nothing simple in New York City.
Understood, it's guesswork at this point. But yeah, the idea was this would be done at, probably overnight. It would be nighttime work. It wouldn't be done during the day. So we can minimize, street closures as much as possible. Because even it would affect the cemetery as well. Obviously, we don't want to have, we have funerals coming, things like that. So try to minimize it as much as we can.
Okay. Not seeing any other questions. So I think, Jamie, yep. And then we'll move to, we have to vote on this. So then we'll move to a vote before going to the next agenda item.
Probably betraying my ignorance a little bit, but you cut a trench perpendicular across Fifth Ave so that you can work down there. And then you're working at night, and during the daytimes, it's covered with steel plates, so it's still passable to car, bus, and bike traffic. Okay, and the trench stays there for about how long?
We'll stay until the final project is near completion, and then they will come in and repave the road again.
So there will be metal plates during most passing hours for can we expect months? Can we expect weeks?
I can't imagine it would be that long. Again, we'd be relying on, inspections and things taking place, but it shouldn't be that wide a cut. Again, we're talking two conduits that are 6-inch conduits, I believe.
Three-inch conduit.
Yeah, so they're two small conduits that are going, so it's not going to be like a giant wide street cut.
So how wide should we expect?
I think on the drawings, we've estimated it at, if I get to here, it's roughly maybe a little under 3 feet. So it's at least 2.5 feet, let's say.
2.5 foot wide trench covered with big metal plates that it should be totally passable to traffic during the daytime.
Yes, it will. Yeah, that's not going to be a problem. And again, none of this would get permitted without DOT, having a say at the end of the day on those stipulations.
Thanks, Jamie, for the questions. So what I would propose again is that we do this by unanimous consent. Do I have to support their work and the design? Do I have a second? Okay, great, from Jamie. Okay, so then any objections? Seeing none, that passed. So thank you all. Appreciate the time. Great. Okay, so now we will go to the third agenda item, and we have some neighbors who are here from 21st and 6th. There was an email that came in a couple of hours ago, Jeremy, for a presentation. Is that something that you got from them? Okay, I think maybe within the last 2 hours. Is it a PowerPoint? Oh, it's just to me. Okay, let me forward it. No, it's okay. Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. I'm just gonna forward this presentation. So I do, well, my multitasking is not gonna be good. Okay, give me a sec. Okay. So is it better do you guys have your computer that was, do we have the right, Jeremy, do we have an adapter for Mac or no? Okay. Okay. Okay, so what I will do is give some context. I am reading off my phone, and then I will pass over. But just to say, so we have some neighbors who have been doing a lot of organizing work and advocacy around safety in their part of Community Board 7. And this is kind of an outgrowth or an impact of some DOT work that was done. And they live there and they're seeing it in real time. So it's like what action the city has done and also what they haven't done. So we will hear a short presentation from them in terms of work that has happened. And I think I would just say to Community Board 7 members and anyone tuning in, you know, of course, we are always hearing public comment and we're hearing about different issues affecting the community. I think this is another way to do engagement is have neighbors come and share and talk about like what they're seeing in particular and what route that they've tried to get some action to happen. Is there anything else that you guys would want to say before you, I mean, you can wait till Jeremy connects you, but if you want to say anything else and say, yeah, where you live in the district too.
So my name is Jessica Blue, and I live on 21st Street between 6th and 7th Avenue, and I've lived there for almost 20 years. And this is Mary Ferguson, who has lived on the block for 11 years. We have developed a block association on our block, 21st Street Block Association, and we're coming here as representatives of our street. Just to give you a little bit of background, in 2021, in an effort to reduce truck traffic in the neighborhood, 20th Street became a one-way street. And in response, it was a two-way street. And in response, they made 21st Street into a bike boulevard. And this was a way to, that's okay.
I gotta go. You can step over the wire.
Well, acrobat. Okay. The bike boulevard was a way to eliminate truck traffic on our street because I think there's a Amazon shipping center, something that was going to then use our street. So in creating this bike boulevard, there is a large island sort of in the middle of the intersection. And maybe.
No, we need the HDMI to hook up to the camera. So we're not prepared.
Okay. We could. Okay. Yeah.
I think, so what I would just recommend right now, the presentation is traversing through email to Jeremy, so at some point it will land in his inbox, but if you guys can
I'll
keep.
keep talking.
then-
So, the problem is there's a huge island in the middle of the intersection that is to prevent, car traffic from going through. A lot of cars are just disregarding it and just going over it. Yes. Yeah, some cars will just drive on the wrong side of the street. There is no direction. It's very confusing for drivers because it doesn't tell you how to get to our block. So it's unclear of how to navigate. And as pedestrians, it's an enhanced pedestrian crossing, but it's not really well marked. It would be great if there was a button where you could push and like blinking or something to alert motorists, because motorists are just speeding through it. And the way the island is in the middle of the intersection, it pushes the drivers closer to the pedestrians. So there's a business on the corner that has an outdoor cafe, and it has been very unsafe for people just waiting on the curb, people dining in the restaurant. We are here to just try to push for some kind of evaluation so that pedestrians in our neighborhood can be a lot safer. I don't know if you have anything to add. Yeah, and we have filed, just to give you some other, there are 6 schools within, an 8-block radius of the neighborhood. And we filed 12 DOT complaints. Just like a week ago, a truck was trying to get around it and knocked over a light pole. This is, a dangerous intersection, and thankfully nobody has been hurt thus far, but it just feels like it's a ticking time bomb, and we'd really love to get some help. And now we will have some visual aids. Oh, we also have a petition signed by our neighbors to get an evaluation to promote more, safety in this intersection. And there's 200 signatures from neighbors and businesses.
So, if you can speak directly into the mic, just for people who are joining online.
Y'all can see, we're now looking at the intersection between the intersection of 20th and 6th. So as Jess was talking about, what ends up happening is people drive up, they don't know what to do, and like one of 3 insane things happen. They drive over it, which is, the least dangerous situation. They will drive on the wrong side of the road to the left into oncoming traffic, or they will come down and make an illegal U-turn. And there have literally been like, as if we decide that we would actually like to watch the videos, it's kind of entertaining, kind of scary to watch how this situation is emerging. And so we understand that this enhanced crossing was put through like very quickly in order to deal with the truck traffic situation. Those, I don't know what they're called, the things that you drive over and then will bounce back, were added later. That seems to have unfortunately made the situation for drivers worse. And so our request, that we're not urban planners and don't know necessarily how to solve this situation, our request is for like immediate safety evaluation. I think in the interim, yeah, so that's the aerial view that you can see right there. In the interim, stop signs would be an amazing addition to this, I don't even know what to call it, traffic catastrophe, traffic boondoggle, traffic insanity.
I'll just give them the chance to, if they want to wrap up, and then we'll move to questions. And I wanted to provide a point once you guys are done. I'm so glad the slides are now working.
Me too. Would it be possible to just look at a couple of the videos? Because I think it'll really provide the local flavor of what happens. And if y'all are familiar, that the Tavern on the Corners, Battle Hill, it's a super popular destination for, pretty much every single family. 5 o'clock on Friday and Saturday, you'll see all the neighborhood kids hanging out over there. And so if you click on one, this is the sort of least terrible situation that you'll see. Fantastic U-turns, right? That's pretty common. Yeah, yeah. Some cars can do it, some cars can't. That's pretty entertaining. And if you would, you can literally just go in order. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's a pretty spectacular jackknife truck right there, trying to navigate its way out. You don't have to watch the entire video because the truck driver becomes very angry with the person who is filming this and gets out, and they have words. Excuse me? It is a wonder. It is a wonder. He drives pretty much up onto the entire sidewalk situation. And then if you just want to show one more, just because you'll see what it's like to live with this. Yeah, perfect. That's someone completely driving on the wrong side of the road, and then somebody else deciding, yep, that was a great idea, I'm going to do that too. And because there's a lag in the video here, it is not representative of how fast those two cars were going. They're probably going about 45 miles an hour, which is insane. So we would very much like some action. We've been, as just mentioned, we have a petition of 200 people that have signed this. The folks at Battle Hill have talked to the local precinct. Like, this is going to cause a problem at some point, and so we need y'all's attention.
So, yeah, so I think there's a couple of points and then I'll open it up to questions, but I do want to say that this has been an issue that has come to the community board. We have raised this, this has, Jeremy, I mean, I can just turn to you, but basically saying this has been brought to the Brooklyn Borough Commissioner, followed up with our Brooklyn representative for DOT. Yet again, we've sent a lot of communication about this. They told us that they would get back to us about this issue in 2025. We've explained the condition, stating that it was caused by DOT and can be something that can be fixed. And, given the significance of options, like, granite blocks, or you heard neighbors say stop signs. We're not urban like transportation planners with the city, but so I want to ask Jeremy if there's any other updates that the community board can offer. And then I also believe that the council member's office, Shana Hanif's office, is on the line, and they might be able to provide some context, because ultimately, I mean, we are Community Board 7, but this goes to our elected officials.
Over the summer, I believe it was Mary who sent us these videos, as well as a petition. We sent that to DOT. I followed up by speaking directly to the Borough Commissioner in September, who said he would look into it. Haven't heard back from him. In October, we put it on an agenda for DOT. Spoke to my liaison. She said she'd get back to us in 2025. I said, that's not good enough. She said, we have a new granite contract coming up. I said, that's great. We don't need to wait for granite. Please put in Jersey barriers while we wait for the granite. Didn't get back to us on that. Last week, I believe they got back to us again, saying, we'll get back to you. So I have a suggestion. I keep thinking about vigilanteism. Not in the enforcement sense, but we got a lot of useless garbage pails now, as of today. Let's put them on that barrier and fill them with water. There you have your barrier.
Any other questions and comments that come from community board members? Again, this is just really to give voice to this issue. I mean, I think we are a community board that supports safety and accessibility, and we are trying to, encourage things like bike boulevards, but not to an impact that, or the idea of being able to have safe passing, but not to a degree that it causes additional harm. So I'll go to John, and then if there's any transportation members, and then I can open it up to the public.
All right. Thank you for your presentation. This, seeing the videos really bums me out, because I remember DOT's original presentation on this, and I was really excited because I said, you know what? The circles, the diverters are good for getting the traffic up there. I remember other neighbors coming and talking about all the problems with the trucks turning onto the street. And in some ways, it looks like it's solved that, but it also looks like the design's like half baked. And for that reason, like I said, it's very disappointing, because I know that this kind of thing is an emerging standard. Like, I went on vacation in the summer to New Jersey, and these towns I was familiar with, I grew up there, had never had any of this stuff. The whole state was actually looking to get rid of all traffic circles and diverters. And then when I went there in the summer, I saw dozens, because the circles are like, and the roundabouts that they keep the trucks off the residential streets, but they also protect people from head-on collisions. But when they're functioning in this way, they definitely need work. So I don't know the answer, given that we've gotten so much runaround from DOT. an idea to put out there is we could write a letter. I think we've done that in the past. Jeremy might remember better than me if we've done that, but that might be another option if that helps prompt more action or more response, something worth considering there.
So we've written letter after letter about the entire project, which includes 20th Street. When we had this come to us originally, it was a presentation about 20th Street, where suddenly 6th Avenue was added to it. And, oh yeah, it was the end of the de Blasio administration, so they were trying to shoehorn all these bike lanes in without giving us a vote on it.
Do we have any?
Yeah, we have a hand up.
Okay, I do want to go to the room and then I'll go online, but Jamie, and then we'll just.
Can just speak here. I bike through these intersections every day, and I'm extremely familiar with the sort of unconscionable driver behavior. I do want to give them a little bit of credit because they really do, these interventions really do work to, I think, reduce total through traffic in the neighborhood. Like, most people know you can't just drive through this area and choose other routes. And I think it has actually made a big difference. And biking through these intersections, it's just like cars slow down. It really does slow traffic. And I just feel a lot safer biking through these intersections that have the infrastructure compared to like stop signs and traffic lights. I think we agree that the issue is they don't do enough to slow traffic.
I think you'd hear like from the rest of our neighbors, like the speed that cars are driving through is somewhat slower depending upon who's doing it, right? And it splits down, it's human nature, right? Some people are genuinely confused and don't know what to do and do something silly and are like, ooh, right? And then learn. And then there's other people that, you know, I'm showing the cavalcade of jackassery in here, right? It's quite bad.
I've seen it.
There are people that you can see very clearly driving up to it, trying to do the right thing, right? However, the person that doesn't is going to hurt someone. As Jess said, there's 6 schools over there. Like if you go to one of the further slides, you'll literally see a school bus driving over the median. Like there's a school bus stop right there. So yes, it's better. But what's there is still not safe.
I agree that we need more. Just want to be clear about that.
So again, things I'm hearing is maybe hardened infrastructure, like the actual, like not just this plastic that's down. Is there also lack of signage? Okay, so there needs to, yeah. So again, in your words, it's more signage about what's about to happen, what they're about to approach, and then also harder infrastructure options, because what's happening now is not cutting it, even as a temporary measure that they're putting in.
Our enhanced pedestrian walkways where you can press a button and just something lights up just to give more visibility that somebody's about to walk. Because I feel like when cars go through, they don't slow down and you're waiting on the curb and it's like Frogger, like a game of Frogger. Like they don't slow down if you're trying to cross. And it would be great to have some way to alert the driver, like, I need to walk now, and to like stop.
I'll go to the question online and then I have a proposal to move forward. Agenda item. Jeremy, is that a board member who had a question or someone from the public? Okay. Okay, great.
Ilya, I don't want to butcher your last name. You could unmute yourself.
Hello. Hi.
We could hear you.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so we had many discussions on this issue on the block, and obviously not everyone agrees with the proposal. In particular, one can go to crashmapper.org and verify that the intersection had been safe before the installation of the barrier and was safe after the installation of this island. And this is, I think, the only objective source of data. Everything else about danger and so on is hearsay. So this is a quiet street. It was a quiet street. It had been a quiet street, and the other, I haven't seen any objectively collected data to say otherwise. But I see the problem as the drivers are just not following the rules, and instead of chasing DOT, we should get enforcement of the existing rules of the road that drivers are supposed to yield to pedestrians, and in the same way, if it says, you just have to keep to the right, and basically all the minimally required signs are technically there. So I think it's really an enforcement problem and not an issue we should try to chase up with the DOT, because if you consult the MUTSD, which is the document that governs the installation of signs, and I think any informed proposal would do that, you will see that they have what's minimally required, and the stop signs are expressly forbidden for the reason that was mentioned there. They should not be used for speed reduction, so there's no way on earth they're going to install that. So I think we should really, find the source of the problem as opposed to, singling out this intersection for being different than others and then blaming everything on the design of the intersection. Thank you.
Think that this is a yes and situation as opposed to an either or. So we would love to have enforcement of the current, laws in place.
And so we'll just go if there's any questions or comments and then okay.
Eric Anderson, you can unmute yourself.
And I'll just say for our presenters, it's just our chance to hear from neighbors. So yeah.
Hi, thank you very much. I just wanted to emphasize the point about how the median pushes cars closer to the crosswalk. I've got two young children that we cross across 21st Street to go to school every day, and they really don't slow down. And I have struggled with the design of making it more risky for pedestrians. And it to the prior comment, it seems like it was it's always been a quiet street and still is today. I think part of the problem is they had to make the median accessible for fire trucks to go over, perhaps. And then there's also there's no signs prior to 6th Avenue. So if you're coming up 21st Street, you come across 3rd, you come across 4th, you come across 5th, and then all of a sudden you hit a dead end, supposedly. And then people just get frustrated and do what they want to. So if it's to remain, I think it would be helpful to, have signage prior to 6th Avenue as well, letting cars know that, like, if they come up from 5th, they're going to have to make a right into what turns into the cemetery, and it is not a through. It isn't very clear from the bike boulevard signs that you're about to run into a dead end, effectively. So those are just my comments. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I have Brian Gross next. Brian, you can unmute yourself.
And Brian, this is good transition. So Brian is from the council member's office. And so just ask, I believe. And so if you want to provide any comments about the council members' participation.
Hi, this is Brian Gross from Councilmember Shahana Hanif's office. I will say that currently at the moment, we are speaking to DOT about resolving this issue, and they've been fairly cooperative with us. When we have more information, we'll let the community know. But if you have any questions whatsoever, I'll put my email in the chat, and I'll put my coworker's email too, Sabine Aronowski, in the chat. Any issues and concerns, you can just email us directly and we'll respond. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Eric Botsford next. Eric, you could unmute yourself.
Hello, thank you. I just, really appreciate the community board taking up this issue tonight. I wanted to just respond to something that one of my neighbors said earlier, that there really is no objective evidence that this intersection is less safe than it was. My objective evidence is that I have almost been hit on 2 occasions crossing this crosswalk here from drivers that do not pay attention to the sign indicating that, you know, pedestrians should have priority in crossing here. Drivers just simply do not pay attention to it. Cars have nothing to slow them down between 20th and 23rd Street on 6th Avenue, and they do not slow down. To the person earlier who spoke, who bikes in the area, you know, I fully support the bike infrastructure. I fully support traffic calming, but we have a real problem here on 6th Avenue because cars do not slow down. They speed down 6th Avenue because they have nothing to slow them. And the shape of these traffic diversions in the middle of 6th Avenue steer cars towards people who are crossing in the crosswalk, and it is extraordinarily dangerous. And we have to find a way to slow the cars down on 6th Avenue. Other than that, I support DOT trying to calm traffic in our area, reduce truck traffic, fully support that, but we got to slow cars down on 6th Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca Harshberger, you can unmute yourself.
Oh, yeah. Hi, I'm Rebecca. Live on 21st between 6th and 7th. And I don't have anything new to say except that I just feel that the way the infrastructure is designed, it just seems to just create a lot of confusion where I just constantly see drivers either trying to mount the infrastructure or make illegal U-turns. And I feel like even drivers who are acting in good faith, like I feel like they are truly like confused on how to make that turn legally. And we've just seen so many drivers like going over it or almost hitting people at the restaurant, and I don't feel like it's made it safer at all. And I really appreciate all the work of the community board and the council member Shahana to try to get this to change. I'm not sure why it was created, but it's just created a lot of problems for pedestrians on 21st Street between 6th and 7th, and especially the Battle Hill Tavern. So I just wanted to echo what Mary and Jess and everyone has been saying.
Thank you.
So what's that? Oh, you're out of hands. Good. Okay. So I have a proposal. We'll see what you all think before we go to the last agenda item. And just to reiterate, you know, the role of a community board, folks are volunteers that are here, and we can convene on issues. We can bring elected officials, we can bring neighbors, we can bring agencies together, and do that. We can, you know, you would like to think that we can catalyze things to happen. And so that is effectively what we are doing when we get together as a community board and transportation committee. So I would have a proposal, as Jeremy says. I'm going to go out on a limb here. We can do what we want in the committees, and we can pass any kind of proposal, any kind of resolution that we want. So yes, we have written several letters. Okay, so I would this will be you know, maybe seconded and then up for discussion. But I would propose that we have a resolution stating that there is a problem at the intersection of 21st and 6th Avenue where the design falls short, and that there are safety and accessibility issues, that we propose that this intersection is addressed with an outcome that really takes into account safety and accessibility. So I'm not saying anything about what design, what it looks like, but that there's an outcome. So we propose that the intersection is addressed with an outcome for safety and accessibility. And we propose that DOT and Councilmember Hanif's office addresses this, takes action, and communicates back to neighbors before the year ends. So that is the proposal. Is it seconded? And then it can be up for discussion. It's being seconded by Jamie, and then now it can be up for discussion. Maybe you want to add other elected officials' names. Maybe you want to propose different language. But so if we have any comments or questions, John didn't know that I was going to introduce this resolution. So if you have any questions. Not to the resolution.
Not to the resolution.
Okay.
Are we submitting this as 7?
I'm introducing this as a transportation committee resolution?
I,
Oh, yeah, okay. So Jerry, did you ask the question on the mic so that people can hear it? What was your question?
my question was, are we submitting this as a CB7 or transportation committee?
So all we're doing right now is I'm introducing this as a transportation committee resolution. And I don't know, just because you pass something in the transportation committee, does it have to go in front of the full board? Okay, so if a resolution passes in a transportation committee meeting or any committee meeting, then it goes to the full board. Yeah, so again, in this moment of discussion, you can propose to add items, strike items, and I'm happy to say what
Yeah,
I said
one more.
again. Okay,
So since this is also a safety concern, you might want to think about adding these public safety committee along with the transportation committee. I know the vice chair very well.
Jerry is the vice chair. Any other, so let me just ask if there's any other board members that have questions, because we have, just in terms of the order right now, I don't think that non-board members, can non-board members say anything during a discussion portion? No,
Once it's seconded.
not once it's seconded, which it has been. Discussion on the floor. Okay, go.
All right, so raising my hand for discussion on the floor. I know that the motion has been introduced and has been seconded, but I was wondering if if the presenter might be willing to change it to add a note that another constituency should be the NYPD, and they should also report back on their outcomes. I think that's 72 precinct, if I'm remembering right.
Say the language that you'd add, and then I can tell you if it's a friendly amendment.
Okay, so the resolution was, as I understand it, that to note that there's a problem on 21st Street and 6th Avenue where the design falls short, causing safety and accessibility issues. And it was proposing that it's addressed with an outcome for safety and accessibility, asking DOT and Councilmember Hanif's office to get back to us before year end. So I would say that I would just change it to DOT, CM Hanif, and representatives from the NYPD to get back to us. But again, that's
Related to enforcement.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is a friendly amendment, so I'm happy to add that. Any other questions? Because then we would move to a vote. Did you have a question? To add enforcement? Okay. Any questions from committee members online? Jeremy? No. Okay. So I would propose that we pass this by unanimous consent. Any objections? No? Okay, thank you. That passed by unanimous consent. There were some hands that had questions that were from neighbors that were here. So I just wanted to give you guys a chance if you had wanted to ask anything. Okay. And this will be brought to the community board. So just I'll preempt and say, this will go to the community board next week. And then before the community board, which is on Wednesday at 6:30, and then before the meeting starts, there's always time for public comment on things that are going to get voted on. So please, if you want to share anything now, but there's also time then as well.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Sorry, especially without wanting to co-opt the work that you guys have done, only that we're specifically talking about the 21st and 6th intersection. Similar situations are happening at 22nd and 6th, as well as 23rd and 6th. And I just wanted to, especially at 23rd and 6th, a lot of people driving on the wrong side of the road. Thank you.
We will, so we have this like specific resolution, but I think what we're going to do is provide a larger context of like what's happening along this whole section. So, okay, good. All right. Well, thank you to folks for voting on that. And thank you to the neighbors for coming and supporting. Yes, great. Thank you. Lively. Okay. So I'm going to go to the final agenda item. Jeremy, I sent you a link just now. Basically, I'm just gonna,
Don't do these.
I know. Just asking you basically to open up, I mean, you might already have it, but to open up this BQE design proposal. and project it so that when I move up there, I can talk through it. Yeah, so I'll move. Okay. Okay, I'm making myself official by moving up here. So we did ask DOT to come and present on the BQE design proposal, and they are not sending anybody. So I'll give a little bit of context. I am not a DOT employee. I am a board member. But this is important, and we should have a discussion, and we should look at what they have proposed. For those that are tuning in, this is the Brooklyn Queens Expressway redesign proposal. This kicked off several years ago. I'm gonna zip through timeline, and I might make a mistake along the way, but as part of a revisioning of the BQE to address longstanding issues, there were several community meetings that happened, both online and in person, and then that happened within our district. You all showed up, you participated, you gave feedback. DOT came back. They gave us additional, the initial phase of designs and concepts. We all gave feedback. We sent letters, so that's what's included in what Jeremy had printed out, and of course, we'll include that in our minutes, but we provided feedback on what we saw in those initial designs, things we wanted, things that we didn't want. It's super helpful, thank you. So I think it's page 50, I think it starts on page 58 is BQE South. So what I will say is when we asked DOT if they would come back, they said, no, but we'll come back when we get further along with this grant that they have, which is the Reconnecting Communities Grant, which is a federal infrastructure Department of Transportation funding. And so this larger package of the BQE visioning is just a document. The next step is that, and again, I've been doing my best with trying to present on behalf of DOT, even though I don't work for DOT, but what they're trying to do is choose two parts of this whole BQE corridor, two sections that will get further study and further planning. So it's not yet putting shovels in the ground and actually doing anything with the design, but the next phase is choosing through some process that I don't know what it is, but choosing two of the pieces of the proposal. So for example, it could be BQE South in our portion of and the proposals that you see here, or it might not be. It might be another part. It might be the part and extension that's in Bay Ridge. It might be the part and extension that's just in a different area altogether. So we don't know. So that's where they delayed or they said that they'd come back in the new year. Okay, why this is important is I want to just give ourselves a few minutes of time to look at what their final proposal was, and to receive some feedback and get some responses from community transportation board members or anyone else with comments. So we could do things like we could potentially write a follow-up letter, which again, it's good to have things record keeping. It's good to have things like written down. We could also potentially take a vote where we say, okay, for the design concepts for 3rd Avenue streetscapes, for the near-term concept and medium-term concept, we think the things that are reflected in the concepts are good. They're not asking us for a vote like the way they did for 3rd Avenue, but it's a proposal. So I just want to explain the reason that we're doing this is that this final design came out, and our community board should have a voice on the record of what we think. Did they do a good job? Did they reflect the concerns we have? Is there anything in here that's just wildly out of, they completely plugged their ears and didn't listen to the feedback that they got? So sorry for the long description, but I will open to a question or two, and then I will show just a few of the design proposals that are in here. But yeah, looks like Jeremy has a question.
So let me just say, this looks, when they presented to us, they presented a concept and then they said they wanted to hear our feedback. And then they took our feedback and they are now presenting to us what looks exactly like what they originally presented to us. This completely ignores the flooding issue. We said to them, you're proposing parks both north and south of us, but you're proposing micro hubs for this district. And what's on this? No parks and 3 blocks of micro hubs.
You say what a micro hub is?
It is delivery,
Trucking delivery.
truck delivery, truck to van or bike delivery.
Okay, so maybe what we can do is open, because I know people have had different amounts of time looking at this. So if we could go to page 61, because I just for anyone who's tuning in, sorry, I think it's like the next one after that. Yeah, okay. So at a high level, these are the design concepts that they have. Curb extensions and planters, bike infrastructure, metered parking, and then micro hubs. Then if you go down, we're gonna scroll through a couple of these, Jeremy, with your help. If you go to the next one, it shows you a little bit more information about the enhanced streetscape on Third Avenue. You all know this because you were part of the vote in the planning, but they basically took the Third Avenue redesign that we've been advocating for a long time and just took that and put it here and said that that was part of the design proposal. So that's what you can see in the near-term concept, talks about what we voted on, what was presented in November of 2023 to the Transportation Committee, and then what we voted on in January of 2024, and then was passed by the Community Board in February of 2024, which was the Third Avenue Design Option 3. So again, the streetscape, they put this in. If you can go to the next one. Next design has this community hub, pop-up markets and community services. And then if you go to the next one, which is pedestrian connections near ramps. And they inserted in here the New York EDC implementation of this project that is basically what was a passageway for cars. They made it accessible for pedestrians, and they listed that and said, could we do more of that? But they were not very specific. Okay, so Jeremy kind of led off and said his comments, but I wanted to collect any other feedback from community board members, again, about this proposal so that we can offer it back to DOT. And I'll go to Joan first, and then if there's anyone else, thank you.
The painting that's going on now, is that part of this plan?
No.
Have they proposed any particular lighting under the highway?
So with design concepts for streetscapes, it just says it says painting and improved lighting, but it's not specific.
That has been a subject going back before Jeremy's time, and Jeremy is here now 25 years. I may be here a little bit longer than him.
Wanted to add,
And that has been brought up meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. And the situation has not been resolved. Especially now with the curtains hanging all over the gowanus.
So I'll take any other comments on the design proposals. I think if you guys remember, we had the state come in and we said, for a different project. We asked, would they ever consider taking the BQE down? And they laughed at us when we asked the question. But
I just want to follow up on what Joe mentioned about the lighting, in that in the full report, hundreds of pages, they signaled as one of their proposed treatments that could be done anywhere on the corridor. What they formerly did at 39th Street, if you remember that, where they had the extra lighting and stuff, that all went away though. So I would say that I think that that has, if we do a follow-up letter or anything, that should be noted that that was an issue. And that the coordination between the city and the state over the lighting is a big problem, because the other day I was there at night on the B37 and I saw like half the lights are out in different places. And those lights, the LED lights they added, were a huge quality of life improvement. But if they can't be maintained, that's a big problem. If it's okay for me to comment on stuff that I would add, I just want to say that, yeah, the coordination between the city and the state is a huge problem that needs to continue to be noted. For instance, the city sends us their notices about construction, which go in the ticker, which is great. State does not. And, I personally have been woken up every night by the state at 4 in the morning, 2 in the morning, jackhammering and all this stuff. I live near the highway. I'll also say that I liked when they responded to us in our letter that Katie shared out, that they had taken some of the actions and they seemed to be cognizant of some of the things we've mentioned, in regards to the bike lane. And they talked about that in here. And they also talked about some of the stuff they've done at 64th and 65th Street. I think it's important to note that, because in the study that they did on 3rd Avenue, it only went up to 62nd Street, but 64th and 65th is by a park. It's also an area where there's problems with like illegal dumping of cars and there's no signage. On 4th Avenue, we had a problem where NYPD couldn't even ticket the cars in the refuges because there was no no standing signs. There should be no parking signs in that area so that they can ticket the cars that get abandoned and maybe get them out of there sooner. And also 65th being a complex intersection does need to be addressed. I know several other of our members and members of the full board have mentioned that 65th Street intersection. It does need to be addressed as well. So I hope that those things can be considered.
So I have a proposal, but I won't go to the proposal yet. I just want to talk through this a little bit. So if you look at design concepts for this BQE, right, it's 3rd Avenue Enhanced Streetscape, which is 62. There's the near-term concept and there's the medium-term concept. And I'll just verbally say what it is. Again, it reiterates here that New York City DOT is planning a redesign for this section of 3rd Avenue. The consideration, again, this is design option 3 that we all voted on last year around the painted pedestrian, the bus boarding, all the things that you all remember. I know it's very top of mind, but then we made it really clear that we didn't want those things to be temporary. We just heard from these neighbors on 21st Street, like the limits of like plastic bollards, right? We want hard infrastructure. So what I would actually propose to be strategic about getting our 3rd Avenue design that has been, as you all know, delayed, I would actually propose that we vote on just this design concept for the 3rd Avenue Enhanced Streetscape, and vote in support of the near-term concept and the medium-term concept for this BQE South proposal. We're not being asked to do this. This is something that I'm proposing. As DOT is looking at progressing their process around funding the BQE design, as I reiterated, they only plan to choose 2. I'm sure Jeremy's going to have a comment on this. And I think that we can use this as an opportunity to progress on the 3rd Avenue redesign, which DOT has delayed several times over the last couple months. And I think the BQE redesign is an opportunity to advance this. So that is the proposal that I would be, in a minute, I would be more introducing it formally. But if there's any comments from John or from Jeremy.
So we keep using the term BQE redesign. This plan does not touch the BQE whatsoever. This ignores the BQE. This is a Third Avenue plan. This is nothing to do with the BQE.
Yes. I agree. Yeah,
Turned off.
Yeah, I know that some of the barriers to their implementation have been their ostensible need to speak to like local businesses along Third Avenue.
just Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, specifically, as an entity, had engaged DOT on this.
And I
That,
know
that doesn't equate being the same as
the actual
neighbors, businesses along Third Avenue. I just want to distinguish that. There might be overlap, but yeah, and membership.
Well, regardless, I've observed a lot of these businesses have trucking ports that open up directly to the sidewalk, and their trucks kind of just like pull across the sidewalk to load and then pull out onto the avenue as part of their morning, transportation. I think I worry that they would be opposed to updates like this if we don't somehow accommodate their loading needs. And I think there's a way to do it, which would be to offer businesses a chance to request dedicated loading zones, even like across from the bike lane in the general parking area along Third Avenue. I could make this whole proposal a little more palatable.
Yes, I have heard that accommodation or just like that tool, the tool of loading zones is something that DOT can employ. And then identifying where those would be obviously is a thorough transportation process that they have. So I'm just curious if there's any comments from John about, kind of going ahead with this.
Makes sense to me. I think that having resolutions shows an active way of responding to them. I know other boards do resolutions about things like this. So I think, to me, it makes sense, and I would support that kind of action.
Okay, sure. And then and then I will actually introduce the proposal so then we can vote. There's a hand up.
Jeremy Kaplan, you can unmute yourself.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I would say one of the things that we should discuss in the resolution is how much of this plan, I like this idea of like these community spaces underneath the BQE, but how much is this sort of like putting lipstick on the pig of being like, we're never going to tear down the BQE? And so I think we have to be very strategic about thinking that there needs to be a long-term plan because, we've had members of Sunset Park and people on the community board have said they've been at planning sessions 30 years ago or 40 years ago where they mentioned tearing down the BQE and here we are. And like Katie said, they were laughing at us when honestly that needs to be on the table and there needs to be a semblance of what kind of plan is and what what we should be, what we can put pressure on to make that plan come into fruition because it does seem like, hey, if we accommodate these few things, like, and the idea of like a community hub sounds nice, and I like it, the giving space for street vendors and stuff. But at the same time, if it's like throwing us that so that they think that we will never push or continue to talk about like that the BQE should be taken down and that we need to have a serious conversation about that, then I think it's pretty problematic. So I think like if it's seen as a short-term thing for the next, 10 or 15 years, but we are having legitimate conversations around what a teardown of the BQE would look like.
And
how
Jeremy, sorry, I don't want to be rude. All I want to say is I actually am not proposing, and I haven't introduced it yet. I'm not actually looking at the Third Avenue Community Hub, the one that looks at the micro hubs and community centers, to not vote on that, like not vote on the whole thing, but just focus on what is on page 62, which is the enhanced streetscape, which is basically just
Gotcha.
the Third
Okay,
Avenue work.
which is
Yeah,
just
yeah.
the third. Okay, I
Yeah.
see. Yeah, yeah.
Because I do
Yeah,
agree with
okay.
you, like, I think
Yeah.
the markets and activations, there's probably like a lot of comments and feedback that people will have. So, okay, I'm gonna introduce, so thank you for, your comments though on that. Is that good? I'll move to the resolution.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, great. So, this is what I would introduce as the resolution, that, Transportation Committee, right? We will make it clear that this is not touching the BQE, but within the BQE South proposal, specifically for the design concepts, and we'll make sure we cite the page, which is under the Third Avenue Enhanced Streetscape, the near-term concept and the medium-term concept. So I'm not going to read this all out, but basically that we support the Community Board 7 committee supports the near-term concept around that we had previously already voted on, which removes the traffic lane and installs a protected bike lane that has bus boarding islands, and that we support the medium-term concept, which has the painted and concrete protected bus boarding islands, and the permanent bollards, that we support those two proposals, that we support those proposals specifically, the near-term concept, medium-term concept, as written in here in this proposal. And lighting is in here. Sorry, I didn't read through all of the items that are in here, but they also talk about lighting in the near-term and the medium-term concept. Do we have a second for that proposal? Okay, it's seconded by Jerry Chan. It's open for discussion if we need more discussion, because otherwise I will move to a vote. Oh, there's discussion, yeah. Oh, you need a mic. Sorry, I don't know where the.
Maybe this is like a friendly amendment, but maybe emphasizing the expediting this part of the project out redesign, because it is part of the Third Avenue redesign. And that's more of a public safety issue than it is kind of reimagining the BQE.
So an expedited timeline for this specific part of the plan. Yes, that we support it because it is the Third Avenue redesign, basically. Yeah, we're basically just doubling down and saying, do this thing that we had already asked you guys to do. Okay, so that was a discussion item. So I will move this to unanimous consent. And hearing no, is there not do this by unanimous consent? Okay.
I actually have one more discussion if possible. Okay.
Okay, so I remove my unanimous
Okay.
consent if you want to add another discussion item, yeah.
Flooding, is that addressed in here? Just,
I see drainage improvements under the BQE with rain gardens and street trees that can be added.
yeah, I would, okay, makes sense.
And we can say additional and, yeah, green infrastructure. Okay, so I will move this to unanimous consent. Seeing no objections, it is passed. So thank you so much. Again, being strategic about this as DOT is looking at their next steps, doubling down on the fact that the community board has been really vocal about needing to see these lighting, drainage, safety, accessibility issues along Third Avenue. Thank you, everybody, for a very exciting meeting. Next community board meeting, we have a ton of resolutions showing up. So I would actually ask if you were a committee member, it would be really helpful to like not just have me and John be the voice. So if for example, the daylighting intersections, you can just say why, like we'll talk about this, but people just be ready if you can be available to speak about why you were supporting them. We'll need your help. Thank you. Thank you. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you. You know, it's always helpful because you put your jacket on. So, oh no, but I mean like, I can tell when you start moving, like, I'm like, oh, it's Joan, it's like time. It's, not even that. I'm gonna have to be, like, John and I are gonna have to figure out what to do, because we have 3 dining proposals plus. I don't know, but I will email you, Jamie, to figure out what. Yes.
Like, I do wanna
Yeah.
somehow make the case.
Well, and I actually, strategically for yours, I actually think Jeremy maybe should say why he supported it.
That'd be great.
So,
Yeah.
just to be